Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another Spooktober edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I have not been saying that nearly enough this week, that's for sure, because work have been beating me over the head this week, the way some of our killers will beat you over the head if they get their hands on you. It's been a rough one, but nevertheless, I have not stopped watching my spooky Halloween horror scary movies. I keep that streak alive every night when I get home. I plop on the couch, I watch a movie, I go pass out. I just happen to be behind on the reviews, and the last review we did was Hellbound Hellraiser 2, which if you want to see my thoughts on that, you can see it right up here. But that was the kickoff kind of to my classic week. These are the 6 horror villains that I grew up terrified of, man. I mean, you're talking about Pinhead and Chucky and Freddy and Michael and Jason and Candyman. Like, those 6 characters were like the ones that like you always watched in and around Halloween, and were the ones that always, those are my first early on scares as a kid. So I love this week. Unfortunately, this week we stray from the originals, which we did last year, and we move on to the sequels. And not all the sequels on this list are a hit, and we happen to be on the one that's my least favorite on the list. It tries. It's not out of the ballpark, it's in the ballpark a little bit, but it misses the mark for me. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair? Take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh, which, in just layman's terms, that's Candyman 2, man. Here's our sequel. And unlike most of the sequels in this list, this is one of the rare ones that does not pick up directly after the first one. Pretty much almost all of these pick up within the preceding days, weeks, or literally right where we left off at the end of the first one. This one does not do this. This one picks up, I want to say, a few years after the Cabrini Green incidents, and takes place in New Orleans with a new character played by Kelly Rowan, and her name is Annie Tarrant. And her family, spoilers, we learn in the movie, ends up being connected to Candyman directly through lineage. And that's the interesting concept to this movie, where it's like, okay, if you were going to come in and do a sequel to Candyman, what could you do that might be interesting? Oh, I know. How about if you have a white character that you would never suspect is related to Candyman, be related to Candyman, and tie it in that way? And like I said, conceptually, I think there might have been something there, but the route that this movie takes, it just never really clicks in for me. And there's several things in the movie that do that. One, it kind of gets away from, the heart of what creates Candyman. The thing that I loved about the new Candyman is the way that you're able to tie in, that racial strain between blacks and whites, and specifically law and people in power, and you kind of lose that one in here, as well as some of the wit and the charm that I think the first one brought to it, as well as all the horror elements. Now, I think the one thing that this movie almost does well is it does a decent job of trying to replicate the ambiance of Candyman. When you watch the movie, feels like a Candyman movie, and a lot of that has to do with the score, which I think is probably the best thing in the movie besides Tony Todd. It's one of these things where no matter where these movies fall, I enjoy the performance from our villains almost every single time out. I mean, Tony Todd is phenomenal as Candyman, and I love that we get to see a little bit more of him, especially, more of his background history. But he's always going to deliver. The problem for me is, like I said, the story just kind of veers away from the stuff that I thought made that first Candyman so strong, and in losing some of that, you end up with a movie here where I'm just like, I'm going along, feels like a Candyman movie. It's a little bit more gory, and like I said, you'll see that throughout a lot of these sequels. You'll see the gore amped up. But it doesn't amp up the scares, and it's one of the things that I don't think director Bill Condon really locks in on ever in this movie, is that the movie never really feels scary, and that's something that I thought Bernard Rose did really well. And I don't know if that's because he also wrote the screenplay, where you do not have Condon writing the screenplay here. You have Rand Ravitch and Mark Kruger. But it was one of those for me where I just thought Rose found a way to build a really spooky ambiance, but find ways to get you to be like, oh man, like like Candyman terrified me as a kid. Candyman 2, not so much. And I just, while it feels like a Candyman movie, it just doesn't have that same quality and the same style that the first one has. And the other thing that I really think Condon drops the ball on with this one is your setting. I mean, you're gonna take me to New Orleans, a place that is so rich in locale and community and just legends and things that exist. Like, there's so much spooky. You just say New Orleans, I'm like, yeah, man, you should put a horror movie in New Orleans. And I never felt like Condon, Ravitch, and Kruger took advantage of New Orleans. Like, yes, it's in the middle of Mardi Gras, so we see, occasionally some of our transitions are bits and pieces of the parade or people partying during Mardi Gras. But it never, I don't know, it never really capitalized on the stuff that I think you could have capitalized on with New Orleans. It could have made this a lot more interesting. And, for me, it just, that's one that's tough to drop the ball. And the one thing you ask yourself the whole movie is, we're in the middle of Mardi Gras. Where's my chase-kill sequence through, one of the parades? And we get that a little bit at the end, but it just never hits the way I wanted it to. And with a location like that, and like I said, one that has such a rich history, there should have been some cooler things. And then, ultimately, where they decide to go, again, conceptually finding a way to tie the mirror into the Candyman legacy a little bit more, that just did not play for me at all come the end of the movie. And in general, like I said, I never really connected with this one. Now, that being said, you do have some decent performances here. I mean, Kelly Rowan, she's good enough in this where it's I don't feel like I never have to watch Candyman 2 again. In the course of my Halloween activities, this is totally something that I might throw on. But I don't think she knocks it out of the ballpark in a way where it's that saves the movie. It just kind of blends into the pretty averageness of this entire one. And same goes, for just about anybody that pops in on this one. And like I said, so much time is spent with Kelly Rowan and Tony Todd. I don't know. There's just something missing there. And like I said, you don't really get too scary with this one. And while the gore is upped, I didn't think it was upped in ways that I was like, oh, well, you know what? You went and did something that I ain't never seen before. And maybe it's because this movie's older and you gotta try to transport yourself back to the early 90s. But, even in the context of other horror movies that would have been going on around that time, it doesn't hit the mark for me. So, let's give this bad boy a Spooktober score, why don't we, right? They're the C-Maniacs. And as I said, it does an okay job trying to capture that ambiance and vibe that is Candyman, but it just misses the mark a little bit, and the story never really connects or takes advantage of where it is taking place and the types of stories that you could tap into coming out of New Orleans. And like I said, the whole family lineage tree, conceptually interesting, but doesn't quite connect here. And with a lack of scares and an uppage of gore, that's not a good balance. If your movie's going to suffer in the story and you're gonna up the gore, make sure that the horror and the scariness is also upped, which this movie does, I think, drop the ball on a little bit. But Tony Todd, as per usual, is always awesome. And, anytime he is involved in a Candyman movie, which is all of them, they're totally worthwhile because you can always find a good performance from him. And one of the other things that I did like in the movie is getting to see more of that history of what happened to him. We get to see pretty much that all take place by the end of the movie. And I like that we got to spend more time with Todd. But ultimately, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh it misses the mark. And for the C-Man, I gotta go 2 out of 5 C-Maniacs. It's my least favorite of the movies that are on my classic week list. But like I said, Tony Todd is always worthwhile. And, I think all of these franchises should be watched in full because that's part of their history and it's part of stuff that you tap into as you start to reboot some of these things. I mean, literally in the last, I'd say, 5 years, Halloween, Candyman, we've gotten a new Chucky movie and a new Chucky, TV show. I know Friday the 13th, they're trying to reboot again. I want to say that they're getting close to it. Hellraiser is getting ready to be rebooted, I think, in a TV series. I think in the last review I might have said it was going to be another movie, but then I just read somewhere else I think it's going to be a series. But nevertheless, I mean, all of these characters are getting rebooted, and they all seem to be coming back to the big screen, and knowing the whole history is always worthwhile. So while Candyman Farewell to the Flesh is not one of my favorites, always worth a watch in the Spooktober countdown. So there you go, man. Those are all my thoughts on Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. This is the mark, but hey, you know, it's Spooktober, so I don't feel like it was a waste of my time. Hopefully, you feel the same way. But now that I'm done, it is your turn, so I want to know everything you're thinking about the Candyman sequel, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. Did you think it hit the mark? Did you think the story was interesting and it kept your attention and was something that, you know, added depth to the story? Or did you think they veered away too far from the things that made the first Candyman so good? How did the gore and the horror elements play? Did you find this one to be scary or scarier than the first one? Did you think that the upping of blood and guts and gore was, you know, something that elevated all that stuff? Or for you, did it just kind of land flat? Anything that you were thinking, whether you have seen the movie or if somehow you haven't seen the movie, one, you're cheating. You're supposed to be watching all these movies along with me. Granted, I know I've been slow getting them up, but like, come on now. But seriously, even if you haven't somehow watched this movie, have we enticed you? You want to check it out? Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent, on Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, goes down below in the comments section. Look forward, as always, to talking to you guys down there. Also, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man the rest of October, we got plenty of Spooktober movies to do. We got a bunch of reviews I got to get caught up on that you'll see coming out periodically the next couple days. And, you know, maybe you want to be here. You like horror, you like me talking about horror, you want to be here for all that. You just want to be here when I'm talking movies, TV, trailer reactions. I mean, we got a new movie. We got a couple new movies tonight. Halloween Kills, obviously, will be on the list for Spooktober tomorrow. But we also have The Last Duel dropping today. So you want to be here for any of those goodies, and you haven't yet, and you want to show this guy a little love and support, well then, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation. It's kick-ass time. We have a lot of fun over here. You want to show me some of that support, you can join the C-Maniac Nation by simply jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema, sit down. I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.